Hi, welcome to another edition of Ideas of Working Beyond. My name is Al Robinson. I am the man behind the site Hat City Blog, and I also do some blogging for the Danbury News Times. And as you can see, I'm here alone. My man Marty Heiser is not going to be around tonight. He's down in Ridgefield dealing with the budget. He's got a Board of Finance meeting. As you know, he is the chairman of the Board of Finance in Ridgefield, so he is dealing with budget stuff because it is the budget season. So we wish him all the best. Maybe he might call in. You never know. But for tonight's show, we're going to do something we haven't done in a while. We've been talking about health care week after week after week, and I've been telling Marty week after week after week that we're going to get health care reform, which we now have. So we take a little break from that. We're going to do a little, what I like to call potpourri. Well, I haven't done this in a while, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about several different topics that are happening in the Danbury area that's come up in the news. We're going to talk about a few court cases that are happening right now. The Troy Grant court case. I'll get into that a little later on for people who don't know who Troy Grant is or what that case is all about. The Jodi Silva case, some stuff is happening in that case. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Our lovely buddy John McGowan is making headlines again for his asinine comments up there in the Litchfield courthouse. We'll talk about some of the stupid stuff he's doing right now and why I think he's going to be spending some time in jail. But I'll save that for later. But for right now, let's not talk about greater Danbury stuff. We're going to do that for the second part of the show. First part of the show, we're going to run some video from a gubernatorial forum that happened in Ridgefield a few weeks ago. As you know, right now we're in the middle of the statewide campaign season. There's a lot of open seats right now because Governor Rell has decided not to run. There's a wide field of Republicans who are running for the Republican nomination, and there's a wide field of Democrats running for the Democratic nomination. Now, for those who don't really know the whole entire political process, coming up very soon, very, very soon, is going to be the conventions for the Republican and the Democratic parties. Now, what happens at these conventions is that they pick their nominee to represent them for their party. So the Republicans, members from all 169 towns and cities, from various Republican town committees and various Democratic town committees will form together at these conventions, and from there their delegates will pick the nominee for their party. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that after the convention, this person who is ever picked at the convention is the actual nominee going forward for the general election. There's going to be primaries. But this is a very big, significant thing because after the convention, we'll definitely know who are going to be the front runners for these races. So Republicans and Democrats are crisscrossing across the state and jumping into any forum or any debate that are happening across the state and talking to people about where they stand on the issues and why individuals feel that they're the best qualified person for the job. So enough of the babbling. From Ridgefield a few weeks ago, here is the GOP, Republican Party nominees for governor coming together at a forum. It was done by the Ridgefield Republican Town Committee, and I think it was Saturday, maybe 3 weeks ago. But this is some old footage. We were supposed to show this last week, but we were unable to. So the first half an hour of the show is going to be highlights from that debate, and we'll post the debate in its entirety up on the Ideas of Working Beyond website as well as on the Hat City blog. But without further ado, here's the video from that event, and when we come back, we'll do a quick public service announcement, and then we will talk about greater Danbury stuff. So thanks a lot for watching. If you want to call in, we can call in at 792-4101 and talk about whatever. So right now, here is the video from the gubernatorial forum. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you later on.
Thank you again for settling down here. The Republicans, thank you again for being here and showing interest, especially on this rainy day. It's very refreshing to see all of you out here to listen to this illustrious panel of candidates vying for the nomination of the Connecticut Republican Party for the office of governor. This event is sponsored by the Ridgefield Republican Town Committee in its ongoing efforts to keep all voters informed of the issues and proposed solutions within our state. After all, one of these panelists will be our next governor, and you deserve the opportunity to hear their positions and support the one you feel will best represent and lead us out of the economic problems we find ourselves in. As usual, we expect civility and decorum from everyone present, and we would ask that the panelists adhere to the time limits that will be set. For expediency, I would also ask that the panelists, as you prefer, either stand or sit, but stay at your location. The format will be as follows. Each panelist will give a 5-minute opening statement, the order having been determined by lots in advance. As moderator, I will then read questions which have been submitted from a multitude of sources, and each panelist will have 2 minutes to respond. Again, the order for the first question was determined by lots drawn earlier, with rotation to the next panelist on subsequent questions. For purposes of getting in as many questions as possible, there will be no responses or rebuttals. We will then conclude with a 2-minute closing statement in the reverse order of the opening remarks. With that, I would like to now introduce our panelists, and these are in alphabetical order. Mr. Duffy Acevedo, small business owner from Branford, Connecticut. Thank you. Mayor Mark Dowling from Danbury. Former Congressman Larry Bernardis from Hamden. Lieutenant Governor Mike Fidelli from Stanford. Former Ambassador Tom Cole from Greenwich. And Mr. Oz Gravel, President of the Metro Alliance in West Hartford. Thank you for coming, gentlemen. The first opening statement will be given by Larry Bernardis.
Thank you, Judge. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Larry Bernardis. I'm delighted to be here at this forum in Richfield. Quickly, I am from Hamden. I'm a former state senator, congressman, U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, and university president. I am compelled to enter this race when, in fact, I thought our governor was going to run again, but when she announced that she would not, I looked at the race urged by a number of people who felt that I had the credentials, the experience, and perhaps even the maturity to deal with the issues at hand. I think all of our Republican candidates, and I've been with this august group several times, and I think we basically agree on the nature of the problem. But since I'm first, I'll state it. State government is out of whack. Some would say dysfunctional. I think dysfunctional. Spending is out of control. Taxes, whether measured on a per capita basis or bonded indebtedness measured per capita, have us at the high end of the chart. The high end where we don't want to be. In fact, our taxes per capita are second in the nation. Our bonded indebtedness per capita is third in the nation, even ahead of the principal basket case in the United States today, the state of California. We know that businesses are struggling. We know that tens of thousands of people over the past several months and up to a year have lost their jobs. We know that foreclosures are happening right and left, and I must tell you, across the street from where my wife and I live, we have just seen the foreclosure sign go up. So it is clearly one of us is going to be facing some enormous challenges in the next 4 years. Very difficult decisions will have to be made. The next governor is going to be a very unpopular person if he does what needs to be done. Spending needs to be cut drastically, and yet, in the next budget, there are revenues that are being used this year that will not be available next year. Hence, the budget hole will amount to $3 billion. Some say $3.5 billion. But the budget that we will have to make is a budget that will be an impossible one, and yet we must cut spending. Every department, every agency, every board, every commission. Now, it's easy to, some may think it's easy to say that on the political trail, but I can tell you from experience, having been a state senator and a U.S. congressman, that it is easier said than done. And yet, I have the experience to help us move in that direction. And you probably heard this week the comments of the Chief Financial Officer of United Technologies Corporation. If that didn't send shivers down your spine, I don't know what would. He said, this is not a business-friendly state. We know that. But he said, more to the point, you won't see UTC expanding in this state anytime soon. In fact, he said, we will be looking to expand elsewhere, not in the state of Connecticut. This is the sharpest rebuke that we have had from a major corporation in this state that I can ever remember. So, the job one is to cut spending. Job two is to try to manage an economic recovery. We'll deal with that in due course. But thank you for your attention.
Lieutenant Governor?
I think I was telling Mark, this is like a legislature over there to stand up and address the crowd. It's a pleasure to be here, and I first want to start off by thanking you. I've had the honor and the privilege to serve as your Lieutenant Governor for the last 3.5 years. Just a quick background on me, maybe you may not know much about me, hopefully you will later in the afternoon. I came to this country in 1958 when my family immigrated to Stanford from a small town in Italy, and Stanford came home, where I went to school. Met my wife Carol, who joined me today in the front row, helped her raise a family, and started a business, and had that business for over 26 years, information technology, basically a business that I started myself with a phone book and a telephone, and words that my dad had taught me were basically, Michael, he says, there's two things you come into life with, which are only yours, it's your name and your handshake. And that's something that I carried in building my business as it grows nationally throughout the country, and something that I've carried in my personal life and also here in government. And it's interesting, as Larry said, this fine group of gentlemen up here, we've been together before, and actually teasing on, we're probably playing cards at the next one, because there's so many of us and we know each other so well. But the issues facing Connecticut are very dire. We face a very defining time in our state. We do not have the luxury or opportunity to elect a governor who needs to learn what needs to be done. We need a governor who understands what needs to be done, has an action plan to implement and get it done quickly. Larry's comments about the CFO of UTC today in Hartford Current are very real. The number one employer of the state is saying, not only are you folks on the fringe, you don't get it, and we're not going to grow here until you change that. We're not going to grow here until you change that. Our problem in the state is not taxes. We tax too much, and we need to cut those taxes. We need both from a business and personal side. Our problem in the state is we don't have enough people working. We have over 100,000 people that are unemployed. We have to look at what the jobs are for tomorrow. So when you look at the qualifications of the gentleman before you up here, you need to take a look at what those qualifications are and wanting the ability to cut spending and get this deficit under control. The next governor is facing at least a $3 to $4 billion structural hole in this budget before anything happens, and that could be good or bad. Someone who has the ability to create jobs and has shown and demonstrated that ability in both the private and also in the government sector. Someone who understands the legislative components, the ability, how the legislative process works, to hit the ground running the first day on the job. And someone who's brought that experience to the past. And I think when you look at that and listen to us here today, you'll get those answers. You'll hopefully get those answers to your question. The next governor of the state has to have the courage to do that which is right. Can't be looking at polls, can't be worried about what the legislature is going to say, can't be worried about what the papers are going to write. You have to be able to make tough decisions, be able to lead the state, and not be worried about the next election and where they're going to go. They have to be able to work with the legislature. They have to be able to have a plan that they can implement that will address the jobs needs. They have to have respect by the business community for the work that they bring to the table. So these are all very, very important characteristics of the sixth government. Someone who is done very good for the task in front of them. I think when you listen to everyone here today, and hopefully listen to my responses, you hopefully get a good and better and fairer understanding of who that person is and what I also bring to that table relative to my private sector experience, my public sector experience, my legislative experience, and my ability to address those issues, and we can talk about that as the questions come up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out today in that cold rain. We appreciate your commitment and your passion in coming out to hear us talk about the future of Connecticut. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mayor Mark Gott from the city of Danbury, and I'm running for governor. I want to give you just a quick biographical sketch of who I am, and talk a little bit about what we think we need to do in Connecticut to turn things around. And then obviously I look forward to answering the questions that we have here today. Folks, I was born and raised in the city of Danbury. I was educated in Danbury Public Schools. I graduated from Danbury High School. I attended Central Connecticut State University, where I earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Education, and Western Connecticut State University, where I earned a Master's degree in Education as well. While I was in school, I had to figure out a way to pay for school. So I joined the United States Army Reserve, and I have to tell you, there's no greater honor that anybody can have than to wear the uniform of the Army of the United States of America. When I graduated, I had to pay off all those loans and all the money I borrowed, so I began teaching high school at Danbury High School. I taught there for 14 years. And when I was teaching high school, I was sort of one of those folks in the teacher's lounge talking about what we need to do to make Danbury a better place, what we need to make Connecticut a better place. We don't really lounge that much in the teacher's lounge, but I was in there. And I remember like it was an epiphany. I remember that day so vividly where somebody looked at me and said, you know, Mark, you know so much, and you have so many opinions, you ought to run for office. So I said, right, I'm going to run for office, and I ran for state representative. I was elected in 1998 in the state legislature. I served on the Environment Committee, the Education Committee, the Planning Development Committee, the Internship Committee, re-elected in 2000. And then in 2001, our longtime mayor decided he didn't want to run anymore, so I decided to run for mayor in Danbury. I was elected by 130 votes that night on election night. It was like the best party in the world. Then I woke up the next morning and I said, I've got a 21-member council and I've got 17 Democrats and 4 Republicans. Wow, it's going to be a long 2 years. But I have to tell you, in 2003, I was re-elected by 65% of the vote. I brought in 17 Republicans and 4 Democrats, re-elected in 05, 07, 09 with strong majorities, and a city that's about 2.5 to 1 Democrat to Republican. And I tell you that real quickly for this reason. Folks, it doesn't matter what anybody up here tells you they're going to do in the legislature. They're not going to get anything accomplished if we don't get more people elected to the State House of Representatives and to the State Senate. That's the bottom line. We need to support people like John Fry, who's here today, and other folks that are looking to run for office as well as run for State Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, Connecticut's broke. And it's broken. It's broken because we spent too much and promised too much to too many people, and we're broken because our political process is basically ground to a halt. I want you to think about this for a second. Think about what you see the discussion being about Harvard right now. The biggest two issues they've been arguing about over the last 6 weeks of your time, because you pay those legislators to do that work, with the exception of John Fry, because he's wonderful. But for everybody else, think about this. They've argued about, should we sell liquor on Sundays? That was a major debate, right? A very important debate. And should we pay for people who work part-time and have paid sick days? That was the second big debate we had. Folks, we have a $500 million deficit in this budget right now. An $8 billion gap in the next 2-year biennium budget. And what is the legislature arguing about? Folks, we need to do 3 things. We need to revitalize our economic development strategy. It's not working. 94,000 jobs were lost last year. And in particular, when we revitalize the economic development strategy, we need to focus on medium-sized and small businesses. I want to ask you a question out there. Raise your hand if you work for a small business or a medium business or own one or somehow engage one. Raise your hand. Okay? Let me ask you a question, sir. When was the last time the state of Connecticut came into your business and said, hey, I'm here today not because I want to audit you and not because I want to terrorize you with an OSHA inspection. I'm here today because I want to help you make more money and hire more employees. Have you had that conversation recently?
Never.
There you go, never. Okay, so we need to refocus on the people right beneath us, the hardworking men and women of the state that spend all of their time creating jobs, not a lot of jobs, 10, 20 jobs at a time, but are the majority employer in the state of Connecticut. Secondly, we need to redesign state government. It's a little strange that the biggest employer in the state of Connecticut is the state of Connecticut, with almost 50,000 employees. And finally, thirdly, we need to rethink the future of government in Connecticut. And let me just say this, my last closing thought here. This election is not about me or anybody up here. It's about you. This is your government. So today I want to ask you to help me help you take back Connecticut and give it to you, the people it rightfully belongs to. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Good morning, I'm Duffy Acevedo, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. Before I introduce myself, I want to say thank you to the folks who came out today to listen, and I'd like to most importantly thank the Republican candidates up front who have inspired me for the years. I don't think it's a secret that everybody knows that Mr. Baldwin has probably led the most relevant and most efficient city in New England, not Connecticut. I think it's phenomenal. If you haven't looked into it, look into it. Lieutenant Governor Fidelli obviously has come over some very difficult issues, being a governor in a Democratic-controlled assembly. I think there's a lot to be learned from that. Sort of like the Korean War, he's been forgotten. Regal, the industry captain, kept the insurance industry in place when a lot of people needed it. It's not a fun story. People already talk about insurance companies, but they do provide jobs. And of course, we have the honorable, Mr. Denardis, who, if you haven't looked at the UNH lately, has become probably the most significant institution in terms of academia and its ability to place relevance throughout the Northeast in terms of research and employment. Finally, but not least, thanks, we have an industrialist and his honor, Mr. Foley, who's in Ireland at the time, the Celtic Tiger, which, being from Ireland, I have to tell you that it was probably not a coincidence that an American relationship that made that cross-national economic boom happen. So thank you all. Thank you. Who am I? I'm not anybody to you, really. But I am a father. I am a husband. My wife didn't want to come out, so I didn't leave politics, but I'm here. The reality is I wanted to get to the campaign and talk about an issue that I think is unique to this campaign, and it's unique to my life. As a small business owner, I think I echo some sentiment when I say that, hope and change is a relevant topic for literature, but I think what I'm looking for is to go back to what my father and my mother instructed me, is go back to the basics of the GOP. And that to me meant that I had to go back and revisit why I'm a Republican and why it's not convenient just to be a Republican, but to take some opportunity to be active about it. It's scary, it's really scary. I'm not going to tell you, being a small business owner in Connecticut, we all know the issues. I don't have to tell you about taxes, have to go, toll booths, I get it, and healthcare, we all get it. But the truth of the matter is, in this crisis, we have opportunity. And that opportunity right now is very short-lived. Next 10 months, one of these gentlemen are going to get elected. If they all get elected, one gets elected, the others follow leadership. We might have a chance to do three things. We might be able to take over the assembly. We might be able to put the Republican governor in play. And we might be able to cut taxes and lower a deficit. That's all relevant. But more importantly, we can get the GOP back where it needs to be, which is enrolling a lot of disgruntled people. I'm not talking about Republicans and Democrats. I'm talking about teabaggers and independents. We've all been there. I know you have. Sitting at the kitchen table and say, you know what, I'm going to go to a teabag party. Get it? But the truth is, we're not going to be sustainable. We're not going to survive if we don't become Republicans. And I mean, go back to who we originally are: pro-life, pro-family, pro-business, anti-tax. Go to our leadership, our senior leadership who came out on a rainy day, and give them the help they want to get elected to get back into power. John Boehner, I'm not going to get to the federal level. The federal government is broken, gone. It's not coming. There's no Calvary. It's gone. We have to come back to the state legislature. We got to get these men elected. We have to be successful. We have to get John Boehner, who's on the outpost, Speaker of the House. We got to send him some money. We got to get him elected. It's very relevant. This man from Ohio, we got a relevance. I'm going to finish up by saying that I have been pushing a bill forward last year regarding small business. If you want to know more about it, it's a credit facility that I work with Treasury Geiger's office. Not an easy task. Senator Dodd, hardly a task to deal with. Senator Lieberman, and I appreciate all their participation. But the bill's on the desk outside. If you don't have it, read it. It's pretty important to me that we become enrolled in this and why small businesses need our help. And I need your help because I'm scared. Okay? have there for my kids who want to go on to bigger things, West Point, Annapolis, Notre Dame. You know, I don't want to break their hearts. Okay? And I've got to be, my kid's 12 years old. 5 years ago, she was 6? No, 7. And 5 years from now, she's going to be a young man. And I just don't have the ability to give him the promises my father gave when he came from Ireland. So I'm here today, not to be unabashed and to be promoting W. Acevedo's story. I'm really here about saying, I really read this stuff. You know, this stuff just isn't just good books. This Reagan Revolution stuff is very good stuff. You know, running on empty on the brain. I don't think we created this problem, but I own this problem, and I want to own it. And this one, Pete Peterson, running on empty. I asked him to just pick them up and read them, and I'd like to be educated. If you'd like to email me, and I thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ross Riegel. I'm president of the Metro Parks Alliance. It's a pleasure to be here, just like everyone else. Thank you for coming out in this weather to listen to us and expand your knowledge of us as candidates. Very briefly, I served in this role as the CEO of the Metro Hartford Alliance for the last 9 years as the Chamber of Commerce for the City of Hartford and the Economic Development Leader up in the north central part of the state with 35 towns. We get paid to make sure that we compete, that region of the state competes for jobs, capital, and talent. Prior to that, I served for 22 years in the Bank of Boston, with 6 of them here in Connecticut, overseeing our operations in Connecticut and in western Massachusetts. And there's more background on our website, OzForGovernor.com. Why run for governor? Quite simply, for all the reasons that all of us articulated a little differently. The way I said it is we have a loss of confidence in this state. Loss of confidence by the private sector, not only articulated yesterday by UTC, but by small businesses, and loss of confidence by our residents. Loss of confidence is whether this is the right place to invest the next dollar of capital and plant and equipment, whether this is the right state to keep the jobs that are here today, whether this is the right state to expand jobs, whether this is the right state to stay and live. You're getting your retirement, 60, 70 years old, you want to stay in Connecticut, you move to Florida or another state. If you're 20 years old, is this the right place to start a career? Or if you're 30 or 40, is this the right place to make a big career change and to continue to raise your family here? And that loss of confidence is based on 2 things. The anti-business attitude has been articulated by several of us and will continue to be, mainly manifested by the legislature, and also by the great concern that we all have about the fiscal chaos that this state finds itself in, not only in the current 2-year budget cycle, but we are trying to look out 4, 6, and 8 years in structural deficits that it is. So as I've gone around the town committee meetings and various groups and talked to the press, to try to group my ideas under 3 headings: thinking big, speaking candidly, and acting decisively. And I hope during the course of this afternoon I'll have a chance to expand on each of those. But under the heading of thinking big, whoever the next governor is, starting next January, I will become the Chief Economic Development Officer, the Chief Business Development Officer of this state. And that does mean going out 6 and 7 days a week, talking to the business community of all sizes, understanding what those needs are, and understanding what the right role of state government is to restore confidence of the private sector here. Specific ideas that I've tried to articulate to distinguish my candidacy revolve around restoring the $250 million that we took out of our Special Transportation Fund in 1998 when we reduced the gasoline tax. I think that's critical to have a robust, strong transportation infrastructure. We'll also put some people back in the construction industry where unemployment's around 25%. There's about $3 billion of projects sitting on DOT's desk right now that probably won't get moved any quicker than 6 or 8 years because we don't have the money. I'd be happy to expound upon that as we go forward in the questions here. I think we have to go forward and do the transatlantic service back to Bradley Airport. It made a big difference when we had that service to Amsterdam earlier about 2 years ago. And I think we have to focus on health care. The UConn Medical School as an economic driver as well as a quality of life asset. So those are some ideas under thinking big. Under speaking candidly, we absolutely have to reduce state employment. We have to take our state employee system, our benefit system, from a defined benefit to a defined contribution system in order to control the structural deficits that are going to continue to expand year after year after year unless we start to change that. We have to do some serious consolidation. I've used the example, I'm sure it needs further analysis, but as an example to illustrate my thinking about whether we need a separate UConn system and a separate CSU system. Is there an opportunity to get some savings, continue to bring quality education to students, but do it on a more cost-effective basis? And then on acting decisively, the thing I've tried to say, and again, ideally the questions will have an opportunity to flesh some of these things out. The idea to change this state requires significant leadership by our government. Not sitting in the corner office or just submitting budgets and dealing with the legislature. It's going to require coming back out to town committees. It's going to, like this, it's going to require require coming out of the chambers of commerce to make sure that the private sector and the residents stay engaged in the process. Mark said we're not going to change anything unless we elect more Republicans to both chambers. He's absolutely right. And as head of the picket, I would work very hard to do that. But even if we move seats up, even if we're fortunate enough to gain the majority of one of the chambers, the way we're going to keep people's feet to the fire, Republicans and Democrats, is to make sure you all remain engaged in the process. When the governor puts 4 or 5 key ideas out there around transportation, around health care, around moving defined benefit, defined contribution plan, you're in it. And I think my job is going to come back out day after day to make sure you are engaged. As I've said, the campaign to change Connecticut starts on November 3rd, the day after the election, and I commit to coming back out to you and working for 4 years to make sure that change becomes a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here. I just came here from the Stamford St. Patrick's Day parade marched outside. I just want to thank the organizers for having the wisdom to hold us inside. Listen, I've been traveling around the state since June, and this is such a great state and such a great country, and that's why you're here, and that's why you're concerned as I am about both. I have found that there are really 4 things that people care about traveling around the state: jobs in the economy, the size and cost of state government, reducing the tax burden on working families, and changing the way business is done in Hartford. I think I'm the candidate who has the best chance of doing all 4 of those things for the state, and I want to tell you why. But first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my background. I have a degree in economics and a master's degree in business administration. I worked for a company called McKinsey, who were problem solvers for both businesses and government, and I left there and started my own company in 1985, using what I learned at McKinsey to acquire underperforming businesses and turn them around, make them perform better, and build on that base and expand from there. I eventually built that company to employ over 6,000 people. Partly because of my work there, I was asked in 2003 to go over to Iraq and to oversee 192 of the state-owned enterprises there. The post-conflict needed to be started up again and restore employment in Iraq. I did that for 7 months. I came back and I returned to my business, and then I was asked if I would become the United States Ambassador to Ireland. So I went over and did. I'm Irish-American, and really enjoyed serving there. And I came back about a year ago and decided to run for office. Now, I've never run for office before. I've been involved in Republican politics for over 30 years. Raising running for candidates, helping recruit candidates, and in one case manage the campaign. So I think I can legitimately say that I'm not part of the problem. I've never served in Hartford, and I've never run for office before. I think that the next person to lead this state needs to be an executive, somebody who actually understands how to run a large organization, somebody who understands how to diagnose problems, put in place plans, and implement those plans. We do not need more legislators becoming executives. That's like taking somebody out of the Major League Baseball team and putting them on the PGA Tour. It just doesn't make sense. Legislative experience is not part of what it takes to be a governor. It's being an executive and being a leader and understanding how to lead large organizations. There are about 55,000 full-time equivalent employees in the state government. That is a big job to take somebody who has experience and has done it and seen it before, and I have. I want to talk about the first 2 issues I mentioned: jobs in the economy and the cost side of the state government. Those are the 2 things that matter to people most, and the 2 things that are most urgent. Jobs in the economy. We need to restore jobs in Connecticut. We're one of only 2 states.
All right, well, there's some footage there from the Republican gubernatorial forum that happened in Ridgefield. It's a rather long forum, as you can tell, and there was a lot of questions that were asked out of the candidates. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it now, and if you want to watch the entire forum, you can go online to the Ideas of Working Beyond website starting tomorrow, or Hat City blog starting tomorrow. You can watch the entire thing. So again, Democrats and Republicans are going to be having their convention where they were going to pick their candidates for governor. The front runner on the Republican side right now is Tom Foley, and there is, on the Democratic side, we have Ned Lamont and Stanford's former mayor, Dan Malloy, basically are the two front runners in that race right there. So things are going to be getting interesting as the months go, as we approach November and the general election. So I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot more of these candidates probably on this show and other shows, and they might come into Danbury and shake hands and do what they have to do to get your vote. So stay in tune, because again, Governor Rell was the governor for quite a while, and now it's the thing's wide open. I can't remember the last time Republicans and Democrats were both going for an empty gubernatorial seat. So it should be rather interesting. But enough of me talking. We'll be right back. We're going to do a quick public service announcement, and then when we come back, we're going to be talking about Danbury stuff. Everything that's in the news that we can talk about, we will talk about here. So I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Bye-bye.
Why is it you two have so much trouble communicating?
I don't like the way he talks to me. He doesn't have to use that kind of language.
All I said was that you had a big osteo fight. Oh, okay, well, what about the secrets you kept from me?
Oh, so I didn't tell you about my drug allergies. Big deal.
That could have been nasty.
Ooh. Okay. So how come I always have to go to your place?
I'd be happy to come to you, Judith. I can't fit the x-ray machine in my car. How's your shoulder doing, anyway?
Fine.
Yeah?
I worked up to 3-pound dumbbells yesterday.
Really? Huh. Just 3 weeks after surgery. That's pretty good.
Yeah?
Communication is the best medicine. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.
Well, now we're getting somewhere. Group hug.
Hi, I'm Major Samantha Weeks. I get to live my dream every day of being an Air Force fighter pilot and flying the most advanced aircraft in the world. Before I could ever climb into the Thunderbird F-16, I had to prove my flying skills through intense training, hard work, and determination. The road to my goal was long and challenging, but the reward is out of sight. You too can live your dream and accomplish anything when you set your mind to it.
I thought indoor tanning was safe.
They said their tanning rays were less likely to cause a sunburn.
What you need to know is UV light from indoor tanning can cause
premature aging, including wrinkles, sagging, and age spots.
So instead of making you look cool, it can make you look old. And even worse, UV light can increase your risk of skin cancer, including melanoma, the deadliest form of skin cancer.
Especially when exposed at an early age.
And treatment can be surgery, and sometimes even chemotherapy and radiation.
In fact, current estimates are that 1 in 5 Americans develop skin cancer, and 1 person dies from melanoma about every hour.
I don't want to be one of them. I don't want to be one of them.
I don't want to be one of them.
This message brought to you by the American Academy of Dermatology.
I'm telling you, indoor tanning is not as safe as you think. In fact, indoor tanning is totally out.
Hey, welcome back. This is Ideas of Working Beyond. I am Al Robinson, and I am also the writer for Hat City Blog, and I write a little bit on the News Times. So I have a little bit of knowledge when it comes to these news issues or things that are happening here in Danbury. So right now we're going to talk about some stuff that's happening in the area. First of all, we're going to talk about some court cases that are happening at the Danbury Superior Courthouse. The first big case, of course, is the case of Jodi Silva. Now, Jodi Silva is on trial right now with a variety of charges stemming from an incident where he allegedly threw an individual down a flight of stairs, an individual who allegedly was, the term forgets me, he was in his apartment illegally, basically, and allegedly Jodi Silva threw him down the stairs, and subsequently, because of him being thrown down the stairs, the individual suffered some injuries, and he died because of these because of being thrown down the stairs. Make a long story short, Joe is on trial right now, and a couple of days ago, his attorney filed motions seeking to suppress statements that he made to the police last November, as well as any evidence discovered in the Town Hill apartment building where the altercation actually happened at. Why don't we just go back to the Silver? Well, leave it on there. Thanks. The motion was filed today. The motion was filed this week over in Superior Court. Again, asking his defense attorney asked the court to suppress any statements that Silva made to the police. And according to the News Times, it says that the attorney asked to suppress statements made by the Silva. States the comments were not made knowingly or voluntarily and were made without the assistance of counsel and were the product of an illegal detainment and custody. Basically, is what he's saying, that Mr. De Silva did not have counsel with him when he was speaking to the police. They're trying to suppress that stuff. And this is pretty standard procedure, but one of the reasons why they're trying to suppress this is because some of the, according to the police warrant affidavit, some of the stuff that De Silva said was somewhat damaging. I'm going to read you a section from the police report now. And it states, it was explained to De Silva that detectives were investigating a complaint by 2 men that he assaulted while making them leave his property on 58 Town Hill Avenue. De Silva just smiled and shrugged and said, "What do you want me to say?" When he was then asked if it was possible that these men got roughed up by him and maybe he was defending himself, De Silva said, "No, I wasn't there at all." De Silva stated that a month prior he had forced several Hispanic males from the second floor apartment, but that was the last time he was there at 58 Town Hill Avenue. It goes on later on to say that when the police continued their investigation, they determined that the statements made from De Silva weren't, at least according to the police, weren't truthful, and which is why De Silva's attorney is trying to suppress this stuff. So we'll see what's going on with this case. We'll keep an eye on it. There's a lot of attention being made to this story because this involves a very well-known landlord in the greater Danbury area. If you don't know, Mr. De Silva owns the Palace Theater, as well as a lot of property in Danbury. This involves the person who was squatting at the apartment was an immigrant, and it came out to be he was an undocumented immigrant from Ecuador who's been here for a number of years trying to support his family. And the case has actually made headlines in Ecuador. In fact, I did some reporting on this on my Hat City Blog website. And to be honest with you, there's some national networks that are picking up this case over in Ecuador. They did a couple of segments on the funeral of this individual. So there's a lot of attention being made in this story, and we'll keep an eye on it. There's actually a criminal matter, and then there's possibly will be a civil matter as well. So this case will not be going away anytime soon. Next case I want to talk about is the case against Troy Grant, and I'm just going to go over to my computer real quick while I talk about this here. Troy Grant was, there we go, there's a picture. Why don't we go to that shot of Troy right there. All right. Troy Grant is an individual who was the vice president of the NAACP here in Danbury, as well as a person who was responsible for the program called Pathways Danbury, which is a mentoring program for kids. Make a long story short, this individual is now facing some serious charges stemming from some sex abuse he had with minors, with male minors. And right now he is, well, this week in court, or recently in court, he had 17 counts on him, and those counts have increased up to 26 counts. So there might even be more counts coming. So there's some really serious stuff going on here with this individual, and of course he's innocent until proven guilty, and these are allegations. But you know, it's a lot of counts against him. And let me just read from the News Times article here. The continuing investigation into the alleged sexual misconduct by a former Danbury youth counselor has yielded more possible victims and more charges. The charges filed against 40-year-old Troy Grant of Queen Street stemmed from incidents that he allegedly occurred between 2005 and 2009 and involved multiple victims. The new alleged victims came forward since Grant was arrested in January. Grant, who was fired from his job as executive director of Pathways Danbury, again, a program for at-risk youth, now faces a total of 26 counts of sexual assault, illegal sexual contact, and risk of injury. He pleaded not guilty to the 17 earlier counts and entered a not guilty plea to the new charges during his appearance on Wednesday morning. Last Wednesday. Grant, who was also the former vice president of NAACP, remains free on a $300,000 bond, but the prosecutor said that Wednesday, in light of the new allegations, she might seek to have his bond increased at a future hearing. So again, two big cases happening right here in Danbury alone, the Troy Grant case and the Jodi Silva case. These cases basically started at the same time. So I'll be keeping an eye on it. You can check my site, Hat City Blog, for updates, and you can also check my blog on the News Times. You can also check the News Times. We'll be bringing you all the details because we're all in the courthouse at the same time, and we'll just leave it at that. Now, I got some other video coming up in a second here that we're going to run in just a second. Something happened to yours truly here, and it involved an incident where as most people know, I do a lot of videotaping and video, what's called video blogging, which basically I just take a camcorder, go to these events, videotape the stuff, and bring back the video footage for you, the people. So if you couldn't attend a certain event, I'll let you see it. Or if I have a point I have to make that can be backed up with video, I provide the video. And this is a perfect example of video blogging at its best, and basically catches somebody in a big fat lie. A couple of weeks ago, there was an anti-healthcare rally that was done by Elise Marciano, who is the head of an anti-immigration group called United States Citizens for Immigration and Law Enforcement. Well-known xenophobic anti-immigrant hate group, and without question, they are a hate group. I followed this organization since it was Connecticut Citizens for Immigration Control back in 2005, which is like 5 years this month, actually. And without question, these people and the individuals are nuts, straight up nuts, and it is a hate group. Make a long story short, I was there, and while I was videotaping, I received a threat on my car. A pretty serious threat, serious enough that I had to go to the police department and file a report, and there's an active case involved with this. It's kind of crazy, but this is the kind of lunacy you have to deal with when you deal with these individuals. There was an article done on the story that was in the front page of the News Times last Friday where Ms. Marciano claimed that, well, nobody even knew that Mr. Robinson was there. This is all a hoax. This is all made up by him. Nobody even saw him there. Most people don't even know what his car looks like. It's all made up by him. He's trying to discredit us. So, You know, look, I'm 6'3", African-American, long dreads, and I had a camcorder and a camera. It's not that hard to see me at this event. And, of course, I'm directly across the street from this event. But, you know, hey, again, let's just let the video tell the story. So, the guys in the back room, I got a nice little video for our viewership here. You sit back here and you watch it for yourself, and you tell me who's telling the truth. Is Miss Marciano telling the truth when she said that nobody saw me at the event? Or am I telling the truth with my camcorder when I'm directly across the street from these people and just videotaping them do crazy stuff? So, are we ready in the back room, guys?
Yeah, second.
All right. Well, look. Here it is. Here's the video. You guys enjoy watching this. This is video blogging at its best. I've been doing this for about 5 years now. And it's these moments that are just real gems when you find people doing big, gigantic, fat lies. So without any further ado, you guys run that video clip for me. Enjoy. Hey, we're back. All right. Well, I'm sorry for the little technical difficulties. This live TV is what you have to deal with. But look, there it is. You can see it for yourself. You can see it for yourself. Elise Marciano waving at me, so I'm waving back to you, Elise. Thanks a lot for that great video footage you gave me. So, if Elise Marciano can lie about that, she can lie about a million other things, such as maybe knowing the individual who put that note on my car. But that's okay. I'll let the great guys in blue at the Danbury PD handle that. But I just wanted to show you the power of blogging and the power of video blogging and how you can use that against nonsense like this. So look, there was some other stuff I wanted to get into. I really wanted to get into the John McGowan case. John McGowan, I like to call him the $7 trillion man. He's doing some real crazy stuff at the Litchfield courthouse. He's got a case going up against him actually a very serious case. It's actually a rape case. He was allegedly being accused of raping an individual, and if he is found guilty, he'll be doing 20 years in the big house. So look, I don't have a whole lot of time to get into that matter. You can come check out Hat City Blog, and you can read up all about John McGowan. This guy is actually also the former vice president of Elise Marciano's xenophobic hate group. So it gives you a little more insight into the members of that sick organization and why people should not take them very seriously at all, because they are just nuts. So thanks a lot for watching. My name is Al Robinson. Again, Marty will be here next week. We'll be doing some more stuff. We'll be talking about some finance statements from all these gubernatorial candidates, as well as some, we might have a guest. We got the phone lines. We got everything happening here. So for the Ideas That Work and Beyond crew, I am Al Robinson. You can check me out at hatcityblog.com, or you can go to the Ideas That Work Beyond website. You can see this show tomorrow online. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next week. You guys take care. Happy